we're united. First of all, I've never seen this country more united, ever, in all my years of being in politics, and it's a great feeling, all provinces, territories, municipalities, and the federal government.
Most united? Now that is rich. We are the least united we've ever been in Canadian history. Half of the population voted for hope. They wanted change. And the other half voted with fear of Donald Trump. They thought they were voting for the promise that there's this miracle central banker that's going to be able to put Donald Trump in his place. Now we find out the people that Doug Ford is mentioning is the most united in Canadian history. All of the premiers are singing the exact same song. We just found out they are actively disagreeing with the approach that our government is currently taking with Donald Trump. They're not eye to eye. So Doug Ford is straight up lying to Canadians. This country is straight up a circus. The lying, the gaslighting, the anger is boiling over. The elbows up crew is soon going to realize they miss their most incompetent Prime Minister in Canadian history, Justin Trudeau. He was actually better than what we have today.
I have a little confession to make. I have a slight learning disability. I am dysnumeric. What that means is I have an inability to handle small numbers and little calculations, those easy things that people do so well. 13 plus 14. 27. Under pressure, it's even worse. So if I pick up numbers and try to do it, 2 plus 3 minus 1 times 2 minus 4 plus 2. How many people followed that?
The level of delusion that is coming out of the left is out of control. I have a clip from CBC that's going to make your head spin. But don't worry, I'm going to be ripping them apart the entire time. Get your popcorn ready. Let's go.
Coming to ask us about the new administration, to ask us about how we and they can adapt. And so I think that Canada's influence is actually increasing.
We are officially the only country that's dumb enough to retaliate against Donald Trump. And here we are today with a 35% tariff, the 5th highest tariff rate on the planet. This is the preamble, very important information. Then we're going to get to the rip. I'm going to rip these people apart.
What move to make next? And I'm sure that's happening right now in Mark Carney's PMO. They've got to think now, what do they go back to the Americans with? Do they make another offer? Do they retaliate? Do they do both? And I think it's a good thing that officials and Dominic LeBon are staying in D.C. They're going to try to keep talking and try to sort this out.
So right now, Canada has been isolated on the world stage. All of these increased tariffs or new tariffs that are coming into effect, Canada is the only one that is seeing a new tariff that kicks in today. Even Mexico was able to reach some sort of agreement where they'll continue negotiating for another 90 days. Why is Donald Trump making an example of Canada?
I think it's two things. One, clearly he's bothered by Canada standing up for itself and retaliating. And I will make a note here. It is disappointing that only 2 countries, Canada and China, did stand up to this president. And it's part of the reason we're in the problem we're in.
You know why? Because they're not dumb. Like I said, who wants to take on the #1 economy on planet Earth? There's only 2 countries, but one of them backed down immediately. That was China. Canada, we just go full steam ahead.
Right now, other countries, the EU, Mexico, Japan, did not choose to retaliate, did not choose to stand up to this president.
And that was very smart of them.
And I think the world made a mistake a few months ago by making that choice.
Did they? How did they make a mistake? We're the ones facing a 35% tariff hike from Donald Trump.
So right now, Donald Trump is in a position where he can pick on Canada, make an example of us, and send a message to every other country.
Remember when Mark Carney went immediately after becoming prime minister or winning the election, he went immediately to Europe. And I'm sure during that visit, he's like, let's gang up on Donald Trump. I guarantee you that is exactly what he did. He left Europe thinking that we are more European than any other country. We are Europe. Wow, this entire thing has backfired.
It's notable that the increased tariff hits Canada today, whereas every other country gets an increased tariff on August 7th. I think he's using us to send a message to the rest of the world. Don't retaliate, or else we'll treat you like we're treating Canada.
Yep, exactly.
And I think in this moment, and we're seeing it, and I have full confidence in the Prime Minister and his team.
You do? I don't.
We've got to stand up strong and not feel bullied by this.
We are bullied by this. There's nothing we could do. There's literally nothing we could do.
Do you think that when Prime Minister Justin Trudeau first made that announcement that Canada would retaliate, and we know that during the NAFTA negotiations, when Donald Trump imposed certain sectoral tariffs back during that negotiation process, Canada did stand up, that Canada did impose retaliatory tariffs, so that when these new tariffs were threatened, I don't think it was a surprise to the Canadian people that Canada would fight back and would put those new tariffs on, retaliatory tariffs on. But in hindsight,
for example, Donald Trump's very first term is different than this term. Who remembers Donald Trump? Donald Trump almost ended 6 feet underground this time. He's going full tilt. You need to take the man seriously. This is not the same Trump we had in the first term. That's the problem. They need to wake up.
Seeing how Donald Trump is behaving now and really punishing countries that stand up, was it a mistake for Justin Trudeau to put those retaliatory tariffs on in the first place?
No, and it was the right thing to do in the first term. It worked. It got the U.S. president to back off. It was the right thing to do earlier this year, and frankly, it achieved some success earlier this year. It got the president to, despite his threats, back off the worst of his threats and exempt the vast majority of Canada-U.S. trade. That said, right now, it's a very interesting choice for the Prime Minister and his team. Do they stick to what they said they would do in a situation like this, which is increase retaliation? I have been a big fan of retaliation, as I'm making clear right now. I think there has been a political consensus in the country that retaliation is a good move, but I do think they need to stop and consider whether to further retaliate right now, given Canada is standing on its own and the rest of the world is not standing with us.
Exactly. Nobody. We're the only ones that is dumb enough to go against Donald Trump, the #1 economy. Literally, he could smash us and we would be finished. Welcome to the main event. Let's go.
Certainly sounds like Canada-U.S. trade talks are in a holding pattern. That is after President Donald Trump raised tariffs on certain Canadian goods. Some of the country's premiers are calling for retaliation.
We have to push back in some way. I mean, we'll continue the initiatives we had here with taking the American alcohol off the shelves, looking at the procurement process. We have to push back for sure. But in what that actual pushback looks like in terms of counter tariffs and stuff, we'll let the Prime Minister and his negotiating team decide on that.
Now, there are other premiers who feel the opposite. In fact, Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe says Canada should walk back its existing retaliatory measures.
We should be starting to look at how we lower any of the counter tariffs that we have in place, or remove the counter tariffs that we have in place as we head towards a low tariff or no tariff environment with the United States of America. This has been asked for by Secretary Lutnick, is to remove any of the tariffs that Canada might have in place. And I think if we're serious about achieving, a renewed and a revamped and an enhanced trade environment, or some type of a new and improved USMCA, somebody's going to have to move.
Does this look like someone that's agreeing and unified like Doug Ford, the most unified in Canadian history? Scott Moe is actually a hero. We need more Scott Moe across Canada, because a retaliatory tariff is not only very dumb, I mean, absolutely ridiculously dumb, it's actually a tax on you.
Time to bring in our panel of party insiders. Greg McEachern is a former Liberal ministerial advisor.
Ready.
Fred Delory is a former Conservative campaign manager. And Melanie Richet is a former communications director for the NDP. Good day to all three of you. Does feel like a bit of deja vu, right? Haven't we been here before? There's no deal. There's a deadline. Oh, Canada's getting hit, and here we go again.
Yes, because the Liberals have zero idea what the hell they're doing, and that's why we're deja vuing all over again.
It does certainly seem, when you listen to Minister LeBlanc, like this is going to be a while. This is not going to be resolved in the next few days. Fred?
Of course. You know what Dominic LeBlanc said? He said he has one phone call meeting scheduled with Lutnick next week, and maybe, just maybe, he'll see him again by the end of the month. That means these tariffs are here to stay.
Yeah, it is deja vu. It's the same thing that's keep happening. And I think, you know, obviously the government's seized by this, and we see the premiers out talking about it, and I know industry is seized by it. I think regular Canadians are less and less interested in this issue because it keeps popping up and it keeps changing and things keep evolving.
No, every single Canadian I speak to is losing hope because of the incompetence that we're seeing on a daily basis. We just can't handle it anymore.
And where Trump goes with this, you know, we'll have to see. But, you know, the market hasn't moved. Interest rates haven't moved. It's not like there's a panic right now. Now, obviously, tariffs will be devastating for us, and there needs to be some kind of deal that is met here at some point. But it's just, you know, it's like reality TV right now. Trump is just negotiating in public. He's dropping bombs here and there, but we'll see what we actually get to at the end.
I think it's important that I give you guys some data. So we have 41 million people in Canada. Only 21 million of the 41 actually work, and of which 40% of those work for the government. That is why we're in trouble here in Canada. Imagine all of the people that are actually working, paying for everybody else. They are furious right now and worried. There's so many people losing their jobs right now. It is catastrophic. And tell the people that are sitting back and living their life and not working right now, when they start feeling the pinch, that's when this whole thing explodes.
If Canadians are either tired of this or understanding and willing to hold out, is there an expiry date for holding out for a better deal?
Yeah, right now.
From Canadians' point of view, I think it's going to be when people really start to feel that there's an impact negatively to them. Keeping in mind that we've just gone through years and years of inflation following the pandemic. So I agree with Fred. I think
it's been 10 straight years. We have suffered for 10 straight years. It's not just the inflation. That's the icing on the cake. Currently, right now, 60% of all mortgages in Canada are renewing by the end of next year, all at a significantly higher mortgage interest rate. This is a ticking time bomb.
I think, you know, Canadians are kind of at, you know, apologies to Matthew Goodman, but I think it's alert status orange. And that we're so used to this, and we're very used
I think we are at a red alert situation.
to this on Friday afternoons, talking about what Trump has done. And there, you know, there's a whole phrase, a whole, you know, meme around taco, you know, Trump.
Yeah, they all thought that he would back down last minute. We all know that he wasn't going to back down. We knew he was not going to back down. And you saw the beginning segment that I showed you. He's using us as an example, the only country that's dumb enough to retaliate.
Always chickens out. He seems to have done that with Mexico this week. So I think what the government and most of the premiers have done is to say, this is going to be tough, you know, get ready for this. We're doing our best to make the best of this. What else can we improve? Inter-provincial trade, making deals with other countries.
Maybe they should give us more than a 76-cent tax cut. That would be a good start. Lower the taxes on everybody so we could actually make it in life.
But what I'm looking at is, I think anything that we do against the United States, I totally disagree with Premier Moe's comments there. I totally endorse Premier Houston's there. Premier Moe.
Pulling the booze off of the shelves in the liquor store is also one of the most idiotic things I've ever heard. It is not going to change Donald Trump's stance whatsoever.
Represents a province that put American alcohol back on the shelf, as did Alberta. This week,
Smart.
two senators, Tim Kaine, and just keep in mind the political spectrum here, he was Hillary Clinton's vice presidential choice. Rand Paul from Kentucky, one of the creators of the Tea Party. You couldn't get two more disalike, but they are combined. They're on the stage at the Cato Institute, which is a libertarian think tank, and they're talking about how the retaliation that Canada has done on alcohol is really hurting the United States. And I could go on and on about things like tourism. But on that one, in March and April of this year, Canada's American, the impact of our ban was 65% reduction in Canada, and they're feeling it. And you've got these two bipartisan senators on a stage at a right-wing think tank saying to Americans, we need to wake up on this. I think no matter what we do, domestic politics and the midterms are going to do more for Canada on this.
I completely disagree with his analysis. If you look at the stock market and the trillions of dollars of deals that Donald Trump is doing right now, the U.S. is significantly better off right now. They could care less about Canada buying their booze
than what we could ever do.
Is there a risk in hoping that the midterms will change the channel on this? Because the conventional wisdom, it'll go like many midterms, and it'll turn against the White House, but it may not.
The risk is evident in the Democratic Party right now, who just seem to be invisible.
Yep.
And also the impact on the American media. We just saw CBS, fold on two aspects, the lawsuit and firing Stephen Colbert.
I think he's hosting this program next week. No, that's not happening. Yeah.
I'll be here all week.
Yeah. Okay.
But that is the big challenge. That is a huge challenge, yes.
Melanie, we're talking about retaliation versus negotiation. And I go back to Alberta's Danielle Smith. Again, we are having some deja vu.
Oh, this is going to be explosive. Watch what she says.
Here. Where is the tolerance when you are not, as an ordinary Canadian, seeing a deal or seeing a change on the tariffs or seeing some kind of different status for Canada when we are one of the few countries that are retaliating?
Totally. I think I agree with the point of, I think folks are tired, are maybe tired of hearing what President Trump is saying and are no longer following what he's saying. So maybe are not keeping the government accountable right now to getting a deal or to getting a deal at a certain time. I do think, though, that there's a lot of folks in this country who are already impacted by the tariffs, who feel very differently, right?
Yeah, you work in an auto plant, you work in a steel plant, you may not be working there anymore.
Totally,
yeah.
and the raising of the tariffs makes it even worse, though, right?
What about the 60% of Canadians that are renewing their mortgage and the Bank of Canada cannot cut interest rates because of these tariffs, the retaliatory tariffs, not Donald Trump's tariffs. It's the retaliatory tariffs that's causing inflation. And the Bank of Canada is pinned. They can't do anything. There's a significant amount of people across Canada that are looking and saying, we are so screwed.
For those folks. So I do think that there's some maybe apathy or there's some forgiveness to the government or some grace to the government for not necessarily having a deal. But I do think that doesn't last forever. I think folks, the more that they feel that pain, particularly folks in those industries that are already losing their jobs, I think people will start being a little bit more pushing the government to do more than just, what we've seen. And the thing that I like, though, today about hearing from Minister de Blas, we actually heard from him. We actually heard what he was saying and then pointed to what we're doing here at home to change things so that we're less reliant on the United States, which I think is a winning message for the government while things kind of lap.
They have not listed a single project of national interest. Not one project has been listed. How long are Canadians going to sit here and wait and hear no project of national interest and watch Mark Carney go on vacations during the biggest crisis in Canadian history? And he goes on vacation. We have no idea where he is. I know people, he's able to go. He's supposed to go on vacation. No. The Conservatives said they would cancel summer holidays and work all the way through because if we're in a crisis, we're going to make sure we take care of you, Canada. We want you to have stronger paychecks, lower crime rates. We're going to do something for you. We're sitting here and everybody is on holidays. Dominic LeBlanc, our chief negotiator, is having a phone call, one with Lutnick next week, and maybe not, gonna see him again for the rest of this summer.
With the U.S., as it relates to retaliatory, not retaliatory, I don't know anybody in my universe that thinks we should be going easy on the U.S. right now. I don't think anybody is in agreement, again, in my universe, whether they vote red, orange, or blue, agree with Premier Moe or Premier Smith. I think they...
Holy crap, who does she know? People with common sense know that it is not a good idea. The rest of the world thinks it's a terrible idea. It's only in Canada that we think this is an acceptable idea. I don't understand why.
Want us to stand strong, and they want us to not just push back on Donald Trump, but also there's a little bit of protecting our sovereignty there, protecting what is ours and what we have the right to do. So I do think the way that the government has gone so far is well heard or well received from folks. So removing those retaliatory tariffs, I think, would be probably a mistake.
Just wait. We're seeing our grocery prices across this country explode. When things get even worse, the tolerance level, even of the elbows up crew, will be gone.
In the communication to people of what it is that we're doing to stand up for Canada and do protect those jobs.
Yeah, and it's a bit tricky because it's the path not traveled. So how do you know what would have happened in the other hypothetical circumstances?
So these retaliatory tariffs are a tax on Canadian citizens. When you go and pay more for your groceries, are you seeing any of that money come back into your pockets? You are not. You're just paying more. For what?
Stance. One thing we don't know, or another thing we don't know, is what the sticking point or points are. Trump has talked a lot about supply management. Seems quite fixated on our dairy sector. Is there any political room for this federal government to give in even a little bit on supply management?
I highly, highly doubt it. This is a government
like deal breaker.
Yeah, well, look at the Prime Minister's team. His most senior people, the clerk, the chief, his principal secretary, they're all from Quebec. Mm-hmm. Supply management is big across the country. It is huge in Quebec. That is also where they have got their government mostly they beat out the bloc. They brought the bloc.
Can you believe it? Quebec is going to destroy the rest of the country for their supply management, and everybody in the Liberals are going to listen to them because they're from Quebec.
Locked down to 20-some seats. They've won the majority of seats in Quebec, so they have a reason right there politically that it's not a wise move to mess with supply management. So, and of course, there's other parts of the country too impacted by supply management, but just looking at it through the political lens, I don't see them at all moving on that.
You know how ridiculous this is? So this thing is worth 0.2% of our economy. It is so small. It's insane what we're doing with supply management.
Agreed. Bad for a lot of folks and something that we're proud of here. And also the communication of conceding, I don't think is a good approach. And of course, as you're having those deals, there's stuff that is going to be on the table.
Wow, CBC is so biased. It's disgusting.
But you know,
what if you have to concede more on steel in order to protect supply management?
Just so you know, Alberta doesn't benefit from the supply management thing, but Ottawa doesn't care about Alberta at all.
I'm really glad I'm not at that table and having to make those decisions, obviously, but I do think the way forward, at least for Canada, and again, I'm going to sound like a broken record, the more that we can show folks that we stood ground on the things that people care about, be it steel, be it supply management, and on the flip side of everything happening with the U.S., figure out those deals with the other countries, figure out those deals with Europe, remove those trade barriers here at home. I think the better the government will be able to communicate what that trade deal looks like, concessions included or not.
These numbers keep going up, and we keep reminding people.
Man, the takes here are so bad. It's insane. I'm sorry you had to put you through this, but you have to see what kind of absurdity they're talking about. It's insane.
People that it is only on those goods that are not CUSMA compliant. And that practically means that most of what we trade, still protected, some sectors.
If we piss off Donald Trump any further, He's going to rip up CUSMA. It's actually expiring in a year from now. They're going to start negotiating a new CUSMA in the fall. We better smarten the hell up.
Exponentially more impacted than others. But it is like this because the Americans are still to some degree following our trade deal. What if they stop doing that?
What if they stop following the...
Yeah, I mean, if the president says, I want more leverage, just ignore USMCA CUSMA.
That's what I'm saying.
This is the rules do not apply to Donald Trump. The political rules do not apply at all. Highly recommend June edition of The Atlantic, where they pursued an interview with him and he agreed, and then he started bad-mouthing them. I kind of feel like we're in a weird game of Plinko, and where the thing ends up is different from one week to the next. And so it's supply management, and then it's the digital services tax.
Fentanyl.
And fentanyl is back, and which is ridiculous. Here I am quoting a lot of right-wing think tanks in the United States, but like this is where the Republican Party should be paying attention. The Manhattan Institute, it's now August, so last month in July, they had a report where fentanyl is not an issue at the northern border in the United States. And this is not I would not call the Manhattan Institute a friend of, say, the Justin Trudeau Liberal government, but it's at the Mexico border. So, but all of a sudden,
how could you say that when we're seeing record busts across the country? Additionally, the trains, they're not checking the trains. And our ports, only 2% of our ports are checked. They're not stopping it. That's the reason that it's so freaking low.
And yes, yesterday there's a big statement on the White House website about fentanyl and Canada again. We know it's bunk. And so I think that the challenge with Canadians is that we know that this is garbage, and we've kind of tuned it out. But what Trump is running the risk of, I think, as well, he's tuning out potentially his own base. They're very upset about Jeffrey Epstein, and it's not going away as much as he tries to make that issue go away. And that is at the heart of his support. These aren't really Republicans. They're not party first. They're not even country first. They're Trump first, and they're getting bored and disappointed, and that's going to be problematic for the president.
So we wrap up our segment.
I have nothing wrong with these CBC people, the panelists that they brought there. I don't have anything wrong with them, but their takes are so bad. These people, they need to educate themselves a little bit further, or maybe they're offered the script. This is all scripted, I swear, because to me, it makes zero sense. That's it for today's report. I got fired up today. Sometimes I just need to let it all out. I got a bonus clip for you. It's not just our economic genius prime minister that says ah. We've had for a very long time in Canada. Here's my bonus clip. I'll see you on the next report.
Water out of when we have water bottles out of plastic. Away from plastic towards paper. Like drink box water bottles, sort of things.